Okay, I suppose it is. So I should start with the agenda. Welcome everyone to...
Oh, sorry, Susan, before we start, should we do the land acknowledgement?
Yes, I'll have to
Do you
find
want
that
me
on.
to, or do you have that? Or?
Yeah, I have it on my speech somewhere.
Oh, if you're going to do it in your speech, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, no, that's fine. That's fine. Please interrupt and remind me all the time, whenever you can. I always need those interruptions and reminders. As long as I don't, excuse me. Okay, here we are. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Treaty 1 territory and that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. We respect the treaties that we were made on these territories. We acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past, and we dedicate ourselves to move forward in partnership with Indigenous communities in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. Okay, so I'd like to welcome everyone and thank you very much for coming to tuning in to our AGM today. I guess we are going to call the call to order our AGM at, what time is it? 6:08. So I'd like to put a motion. Do we put a motion towards calling to order? I don't think so, eh?
No, we just called to order.
No, we don't do that.
Approval of agenda.
So let's approve our agenda.
With the amendment.
I think there is an amendment to it, yes.
Yes.
Was saying there's an amendment.
Under E, review of financial statements, there's an extra little thing, if you look in the chat box that I've added, called approval of accountants. We just have to approve the accountants every year.
Oh.
Should I be looking at any of this stuff, or I'll just sit back until somebody tells me to jump in with something? I don't want to interrupt or get into something that I shouldn't be looking at.
No, feel free. I just posted it in the chat so that everyone, participants included, can keep along and see what's happening.
I see. I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, so with that amendment, can we approve the agenda? Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move to approve the agenda.
I'll second it.
Great. And we all agree?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, wonderful.
Excuse me a minute.
Okay, Susan, keep going.
Okay, so we have approval of the minutes now for 2018 and 19. We were all sent them, the entire board, but we also have them do we also have them in the chat as well, Janelle?
No, that's the wrong one. I'm going to screen share
Okay.
the minutes so that people can take a look. So I just shared the wrong one. There we go.
Great.
Oh, hello.
The magic of Zoom. You are now seeing what's on my computer.
All right.
Cool.
So cool.
So I'm just gonna go through it pretty quick because I hopefully most people had a chance to take a look over. It was pretty short. And that's it. Everybody good? I hear no nays. So.
Okay.
And just to confirm, because this is an AGM and I'm a general member, this is all a board action, so I don't have a word in any of this.
Not yet.
Okay, good.
You can vote. As a member, you can vote.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you can vote, she says, Susan.
Whoopee!
I think
if you want to vote, you mean.
The members can vote,
Oh,
they just can't make motions. Is that correct, Dana?
Okay.
No, they can make motions.
They can make motions too.
At the AGM, there's a different set of kind of expectations. I think the floor and I may be the only one on the floor, but ching, but I could theoretically bring something. Okay, good, thank you.
Okay,
Great.
I'm learning every day. Thank you.
Okay, well, that's great. So do we have approval of the minutes? Do we have a motion to approve? Anyone?
Oh, looks like Dane
I'll
is doing
move.
it again.
Dana?
I'll second.
Second.
Mhm.
All in favor?
Okay.
Yay.
Okay. Great. And now we're going to go on to the reports. So the first report we have is the message from the chair, which would happen to be me. I'm going to read my chairperson's remarks, and I'll make it quick. So good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining our 2020 AGM. I don't have to read the Treaty 1 territory thing because I already did. I'm Susan Lamberd. I'm the outgoing chairperson for AANM. Our executive director is Janelle Shaw, as you know, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce our board of directors today. If you can put your arms up, your hands up, I'll just quickly introduce you. Ted Howarth, our vice chair. Dana Klecki, our treasurer. Brennan Smith, our secretary. Diane Driedger, who is going to be our chairperson after this AGM. Bram Keast, Christian Hyam, and Crystal Kordalchuk. So that's our board. This past year has been groundbreaking for us financially, operationally, and in management. We were fortunate to have been funded by Canada Council for the Arts with a grant that allowed us through Dana Klecki to educate and mentor our new executive director, Janelle, for 1 year. This funding also subsidized the bookkeeping service to update our financial records and to coordinate it with other art funding budget systems and to bring it up to charitable auditing standards. All of this work was documented and is now easily accessible for any successor. Janelle has advanced into her position with ease and continues to do a phenomenal job for us. I feel very comfortable leaving the managerial and administrative duties in her hands. I've been the chairperson of AANM for 10 years, and in that time, this organization and I have both changed so much. When I began my involvement in 2008, we were a grassroots group at MAWA and ILRC, which is Independent Living Resource Center. Simply a collective of artists with disabilities hoping to gather others with like-minded folks to network and share resources. What we didn't realize was how hard it would be to find people who didn't want to self-identify or to meet those people who were isolated and living alone in their homes. Many artists with disabilities had encountered the discrimination that we were battling from mainstream art communities, and they didn't want to be stigmatized. They had applied for funding and had been rejected. They had been told that they didn't have the correct education and they didn't have enough experience. But for an artist with a disability who encounters financial obstacles as well as barriers to education, how are they going to gain this experience without funding? The current arts landscape hasn't changed a lot since we incorporated our organization in 2012. Canada Council for the Arts created a document in 2012 called Expanding the Arts, Deaf and Disability Arts Access and Equality Strategy. And with that document, the Equity Office was created and distinct grants were set aside for artists with disabilities deaf, and mad artists and organizations. So this was a groundbreaking moment that subsidized and sustained our organization through many years of project funding. We were also granted funds for projects from Winnipeg Arts Council and Manitoba Arts Council. Our focus has been networking, mentoring, and one-on-one instruction with a website full of resources and opportunities for our members, with our office on a dining room table and board meetings at REES, which is Reaching Equality Employment Services. We continued with project funding for the next 5 years. In 2015, we acquired a desk at REES and applied for charitable status. We finally got our charitable status and a real office in 2018, thanks in part to core funding from Canada Council for the Arts and the Winnipeg Foundation. And some of our major achievements have been festivals, art interventions, artist talks and salons and seminars, creation of an ASL fund for Manitoba Artist Fund Centers. Artists with disabilities are given a chance to show their work in a mainstream gallery once a year, often the first exhibition they participate in. Many artists with disabilities don't have access to the same education that other artists have, and funding bodies had favored more educated applicants but due to collective advocacy, this is no longer the case. Many arts organizations and institutes have realized the need for accessibility and public artists, for the public and for artists, because of legislation and advocacy. Artists with disabilities are given opportunities and mentorship to learn new disciplines and to connect with established artists, and one-on-one guidance for grant writing, artist biography and statements, and budgets help our members with achieving funding for their careers. So today's socio-political discontent gives us that urgency to open up mainstream art cliques and better represent the whole of our society. Very few of the predominant galleries extend their intellect and explore outside their boundaries to engage with disability arts. There's still an elitist tendency to exclude an artist with a disability in mainstream art. Unfortunately, disabled artists must knock on the door and ask for entry. Ultimately, it's about attitudinal barriers and physical obstacles and lack of goods and services throughout inherent poverty. Because there are so few artists with disabilities, there are fewer still on boards of mainstream galleries and art councils, sitting on funding bodies and in positions of power. And not only is the object of our organization the full inclusion of artists with disabilities into all facets of the arts community, but by that inclusion in the mainstream art world, we are also including disability arts into the history of our art. So mainstream galleries is where artwork is traditionally curated and stored. This is a crucial point that we should all contemplate. Our artwork is the mirror of our society. Disabled people make up between 15 and 20% of our society. We have so much to say, and our creations should be valued and archived along with other conventional artwork in the mainstream galleries. In closing, I'd like to thank the board and the membership of AANM for all of the help and hard work in keeping this organization functioning throughout the years. We've had some difficult times where we weren't sure would have funding to keep going, but we always held on to the will and the positive energy that allowed us to succeed. It's been my great pleasure to work with you all, and I look forward to contributing to the board in my new position. Here's to the future of AANM and all the positive change it brings. Thank you.
Excuse me.
And now I'll turn the mic over to Janelle, who will give us an overview of the organization, achievements, and upcoming projects for the next year.
All right,
Janelle?
thank you. Okay, so I'm just going to read off just our vision and our mandate and our goals, though this is all something you could follow along with the documents that I sent of the AGM. Okay, so Arts Accessibility Network Manitoba is a regional not-for-profit, artist-run charitable organization dedicated to the full inclusion of artists and audience with disabilities into all facets of the art community. Our vision is the full inclusion of artists and audiences with disabilities into all facets of the art community, as I just said. Our mandate is to facilitate that network of artists and stakeholders from both the arts and the disability community that supports artists with disabilities in achieving individual artistic achievement, promotes higher visibility of these artists within all disciplines, and promotes policies and practices intended to make the arts more accessible for all Manitobans. Our goal is to be the voice for artists and audiences with disabilities in Manitoba, to bring leadership on access and equality issues that impact the arts, to empower artists with disabilities by providing access to the resources they need to advance their artistic practice, to bring artists with disabilities and stakeholders together to explore and nurture a creative and inclusive community, to educate and inform the arts community, policymakers and art funders about artists and audiences with disabilities, to act as resource to the arts organizations and institutions making their venue and services more suitable for people with disabilities, to gather and disseminate relevant information to individuals and organizations in disability and art sectors. Our mission is to advance the education of artists with disabilities by providing courses, instructional seminars, and workshops in a variety of artistic disciplines, and on topics such as grant writing, portfolio preparation, and photography documentation. Our mission is also to advance the public's appreciation of art by providing public art exhibitions, presentations, and performance arts events, and by providing a forum for qualified artists to exhibit, present, and perform their artistic works through participation in such events. And finally, our mission is to promote health by providing artists with disabilities with appropriate facilities and services adapted to accommodate their specific needs and to undertake activities ancillary and incidental to the attainment of the above charitable purposes. Thanks for sticking with me through all that. It's quite a mouthful. So now we're going to get on to some more exciting parts, the achievements of the past year. So our year starts in April of 2019. Not much to report then. We were in between directors at the moment, but come May 2019, I was hired. I helped participate in Doors Open Winnipeg, and we had over 100 participants come through our doors and learn about the organization. We skip a few more months until we get another, notable occasion. So June 2019, we participated in a roundtable about digital technology and artists with disability in a partnership with Creative Manitoba. We also met with other disability organizations to do some more information sharing, such as the IRLC, Abilities Manitoba, Learning Disabilities Association of Manitoba, and a few others. 2 months later, in August 2019, we had our Take Two member show. We had over 75 people come to the opening. We created a video from that night, which is up on our website, which is really nice to view, and you see all the artwork and all the artists. We also participated in 2 outreach events. One was the Disability Matters Vote, as well as the Inspire Community Children's Mental Health Festival. So for both of those events, we had a table set up with information about our organization, as well as a fun activity for the kids and for participants to do. We also met with other disability organizations, such as the Society for Manitobans with Disability.
Where I came from.
Oh, wonderful. Perfect.
Yeah, I think I joined August 2019.
Wow, great. Also the Manitoba Brain Injury Association, as well as Sarah Riel. Next, in September 2019, we met with some more organizations, the IRLC again, and we also met with Mandy Archibald, who was a professor in the nursing department, who wanted to do a research project about disability art and wanted to include us. She tried for it, and the funding was not accepted, but she's trying again, and fingers crossed we'll get it this time.
We're meeting.
We also had our very first live stream event, which was our very own Susan P. Gibson's Artist Talk for her show, Grief Works. Unfortunately, no one came, but there was over 50 views of the video within about 24 hours, so pretty impressive. It also
was a dark and stormy night.
It was.
Really dark and stormy night.
Yes.
Very bad.
Just shows you how important it really is to record these events and to live stream them, and how such a big access that is for individuals. So that was great. That taught us that live streaming is great, and now we're in the world where it happens all the time. So we had a head start. Yeah. Okay, in October, I apologize for my phone ringing, sorry. In October 2019, we had our annual general meeting, and we had Senator Patricia Bovey speak at our event, which was quite exciting. There were 26 attendees in person, but views of the video, same thing, over 50 within 24 hours, which was really great. I also met with the Sarah Riel Art Group, and they wanted to participate in our first Friday group exhibition, which was very exciting. I also met with Jamie Rutledge, who's the president of the Manitoba Cultural Society of the Deaf, to help build stronger relationships between us and the deaf community so that we can share the events that we provide ASL for. I also went through all the images that were on the website and created descriptions for all of them for those who are vision impaired, as that hadn't been done. So that was quite a bit of work, but definitely worthwhile. What else? Oh, and we also participated in our first ever First Fridays exhibition, which is now a monthly event. And that was with Jose Cabrera, who was one of our volunteers, and he had over 35 attendants come that night. In November 2019, great month for our artists. Through our meetings and connections with the IRLC, they decided to buy $940 worth of artwork for their offices, which was very exciting.
Yippee.
Woohoo! We also began archiving our files with Beverly Pike, which ended up in all files being accepted into the Manitoba
Provincial Archives.
Thank you. Yes, the Provincial Archives, the Manitoba Archives, which was really exciting. So now this organization will forever be recorded and go down in history as one of Manitoba's, first organizations of artists with disabilities, supporting artists with disabilities. So, yay!
Yippee.
Very exciting. Yeah.
It is. Cool.
I also had a chance to meet with a group of students from Red River who wanted to learn more about disability art for a project they were doing, which was wonderful. So we had a really great talk. In December 2019, we had our first ever holiday pop-up shop. Unfortunately, December is a slow month, so we only had about 19 people come by, but we sold 3 pieces of art, though I should say 4, because one piece from that night just sold, I believe, a month ago. So you never know. These things, they linger sometimes and work out. So that was great. In January was also a busy month. We had an interview with Hannah Folger with the Uniter, which is the newspaper with the U of W, which was really great. I was also invited to give an opening speech at Yearning for Comfort, Not Cure, which was an exhibition at C103, and one of our board members, Bram Keast, was one of the artists that presented there, and it was a really amazing exhibition. It also included others such as Diane Driedger. She was also a part of that as well, and Jessie Turner, who is a member and past board member of ours. So they all did a really wonderful job. I also did a presentation at a board meeting for the IRLC again. It was a really busy year with them. They just wanted to learn so much more about us. In February of 2020, I gave an interview with the Winnipeg Free Press with Allison Gilmore. She also invited me to be the guest speaker for First Friday's talk. We had about 25 people in attendance, and we talked about disability art and what can be done in the Exchange District to make things more accessible. Spoke about attitudinal and as well as physical barriers. So it was really great. Celia McLean had her First Friday event, and there was 18 people who came in person, which is really good for February, because February, like January and December, are slow months. We got 2 more paid members. We had Christian Higham come on board as our volunteer for First Friday, and she has been an absolute godsend to the organization volunteer-wise, so thank you. She's now a board member, so that's what happens sometimes. Just these things change fast. Okay, and I also helped some members with some one-on-one grant writing sessions. Okay, and then the final month was the last real month we had before COVID-19 happened. Unfortunately, Sarah Riel had to cancel the exhibition. There was just some communication errors and staff switching over, and these things happen. It just kind of fell apart. We did have another opening that month, Cryptic, which was a partnership we did with the Video Pool to have a mentorship there, and it was the exhibition from that. So it included Susan Aiden Abbott, who did a piece, Yvette Signorini, of course, our outgoing chair, Susan Lamberd, did an amazing piece. And there was a performance by Andrea Von Wichert. There was probably, it was hard to keep count, but over 70 to 80 people there. When Andrea was giving her performance, it was standing room only. It was pretty amazing. We also live streamed that onto our Facebook account, which was great. I also had a chance to meet with some professors from the University of Manitoba, Christine Kelly, as well as Yuns O, who had a research grant, and they were searching new ways to evaluate disability art. And that communication with them ended up them having doing some interviews during the summer with some of our participants. So it's really great to make those connections. And the last bit to report for that month was on March 13th, the office was closed as a result of COVID-19. And it hasn't been open much since. So that is all of our achievements for the past year. So congratulations, everyone. It was a really great year, a lot of great stuff. The upcoming projects, I'll keep it pretty brief. The biggest thing was the art salon mentorship program that we have going on right now. When I first became the, staff at AANM, one of the things I really thought was important was to create a mentorship program where the mentors were artists with disabilities, because we've had so many mentorships where artists with disabilities are being mentored by well, not their peers, by those with disabilities who they can learn from. But there's a different level of learning how to navigate the art world with a disability. So it was something that I was really working for, and Manitoba Arts Council supported us and has paid for this program. So we now have 3 art salons that are happening, one for writers, which has already began, one for visual artists, which begins this Saturday, and one for theater artists, which begins in November. We're really excited. We got some really great mentors. Diane Driedger was originally going to be our mentor for the writers, but unfortunately was too busy. So we got Kate Grissom, who was a fellow student of mine at the Disability Studies Master's Program. And she's an amazing writer, so it worked out really well. We also had Yvette Signorini, who is the leader for the visual artist, who has been a longtime member, longtime artist, just has so much information she can give. And the final leader was Debbie Patterson, who of course everybody knows in Winnipeg, and she has done so much for the theater community, especially those with disabilities. So it was really exciting to have her on board as well. So those are the art salons. And the final bit of news is coming up in the fall of 2021. We've been invited to take Cryptic to the art gallery in Brandon. So it's the Art Gallery of Southwestern Manitoba. So it's one of those mainstream art galleries that Susan was talking about, who, when I told them about the exhibition, was so excited and just jumped at the chance to have them. Yeah, so, things, while we still have so much work to do, there's definitely art organizations that are making space for artists with disabilities, which is always nice to see. And that's the end of upcoming projects. Over to you, Susan.
Okay, great. So I don't think we have to vote on the reports.
You have one more report.
Pardon me?
You have to, sorry, one more report, the financial review.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, I was just going to say, let's get on to the finances. Okay, so that's a report in itself. And that is our Dana. She's going to take over for me for that. So I don't even have to do that.
No, I'll do that.
Okay. Thank you, Dana.
And, Janelle is going to share her screen so we can all see the financials. So as mentioned, this year ended March 31st, 2020. So when we're thinking about the year, just remember it ended March 31st. We had an excellent year. On page 1, there's just notes from the accountant and basically saying that everything was in order and there was no concerns from their end. And Craig and Ross did the review engagement for us, and we're very pleased with all the information that were provided. There is a note on COVID, which is an interesting addition to all the financial statements, and we'll look at it in note 6, but they noted on the front as well that it's a world event, that it's caused a disturbance. So let's move on to page 2. We're looking at the statement of financial position, which is also known as the balance sheet. As you'll see, we're looking mostly at the 2020 numbers, which is on the left, but it does compare numbers to last year, which is 2019. Our assets is mostly cash, so we have like $35,714 in the bank at the end of March, which is healthy cash flow. We had some GST to collect yet of 171, and we had some prepaid expenses of 1,663. So we had a total assets for the organization that's 37,548. Moving down to liabilities. So these are things that we owed. The accounts payable, 3,372. And that's mostly bookkeeping and accounting that we were owing at the end of the year. And then we have a deferred revenue, which is considered a liability only because we can't spend grants on anything other than what it's allotted to. So it's considered a liability in that respect until we spend it. So we had a grant from Canada Council, 10,476 for a specific grant, the REACT grant that we'll talk about. So we have 13,848 in liabilities. We have net assets, which is our surplus, which is 23,700, and we balance at 37,548. So we are in a healthy position. If we move to page 3, this is the statement of revenue and expenditures. So all the revenue that came in for the year and all the expenses we had. As Janelle had noted, we had sold work by artists. So under earned revenue, there's 1,209, which is up from 2019, as you can see. Co-production, this is the roundtable that Creative Manitoba supported at 1,050. We had an increase in membership fees for 320 and a little bit of interest in the bank. In the private sector, we had an increase in donations at 702. We had corporate donations, so we had money to purchase a new laptop from Assiniboine Credit Union, which is 5,000. And then we also recognized Susan Lambert's contribution of labor. So she donated a lot of her time, and so we recognize that in our books. So the donations in kind is 10,000. Under Winnipeg Foundation, we also receive operating funds from them to support our operations, rent and salaries, 10,000. And then we had sponsorships for 500 from Assiniboine Credit Union. Under public sector, these are our grants, the Canada Council for the Arts core funding at 38,000. The Canada Council for the Arts project grants, 9,524. So this is the REACT grant that helped to build capacity within the organization, training for Janelle. And we also did some strategic planning with that as well. And then we had a little bit of a wage subsidy that the government gave us for 130. We also received a project grant from the Manitoba Arts Council for the project REACT as well. So our total revenue for the year is 81,476, which is up from last year. So that's very exciting. The expenditures is a summary of all the different sections of our expenses. We'll look at the detail at the very end of the document, but the summary of all the administrative expenses is 43,904. Artistic, 31,676. Facility expenses at 4,030. We had very little fundraising costs of $92 and some marketing and communication expenses at 935. And these are broken into these categories based on how our funders want to see the categories. So we have total expenses at 80,637. So we end the year with an $839 surplus. And if you look down below, we have net assets at the beginning of the year. So this is the surplus that we carried forward at 22,861. So we end the year with a net surplus of 23,700. So that gives us a nice cushion. Should something happen, we have some cushion there. We have some revenue that we're holding in surplus. If we move, we won't look at page 4. Oh, before we go on, is there any questions? I can't see. You'd have to speak up if you do.
No, nothing from me.
Okay.
Other Susan.
Great. The cash flows, this is just how the accountants determine how much money we had at the bank at the end of the year, so we don't need to really look at that. Page 5, note that there's a whole bunch of notes that the accountant has made for us, and you can read through them if you'd like, but I'm going to bring attention to number 1. There is a change in, they've added charity to our name. So the Arts Accessibility Network Manitoba is a registered charity incorporated. So that's a new change, so that's great. If we move on to page 6, there's a note on the deferred revenue. Oh, sorry, note number 4. You'll see that there is a deferred revenue from the Canada Council for $10,476, and that's the grant that I had mentioned. And page 7, note number 6, there's a more detailed note about COVID, and basically that it's struck the world and it's led to economic uncertainty. So this is a note that's new for this year. And page 8, which brings us to the detail of the expenditures. As you will see, in administrative, the office and professional administrative expenses, office supplies and professional development, 9,714. Administrative salaries, 12,954. So what we've done is we've split salaries to be half in administrative and half in artistic, because Janelle splits her time between doing everything. And it is down from the previous year only because there was a gap in, there was a time period that there was a change in director. So Janelle just didn't come on at the very beginning of the year. And moving on to the administrative rent, we do that as well. We've split the rent between office and programming because we use the office for both. So 2,641 for administrative rent. And we've also split Susan's time because her in-kind labor, because she also worked on grants and administrative tasks and also in programming. So we recognized $5,000 of her in-kind labor in administrative expenses. And we have professional fees of $13,595, and this is related to that REACT grant. In artistic, artists and professional fees, 8,689, which is up from last year. And this is always an exciting number to look at because that is the amount of money we've put into artists' hands. So we know we've given artists over $8,000.
Yippee.
Yay! Exactly, and it keeps going up, which is great. We've also have the artist sales, and so this is money that's been paid to the artists for the sale of their work, 1,265. Janelle created a small catalog, well, I guess not so small, a big catalog, from the member show for $438. There's education, audience development, and outreach for $2,059. Exhibition and programming expenses, these are just general expenses to do programming, 1,270. In-kind salary, this is the other half of Susan's in-kind labor, 5,000. And the other half of Janelle's salary of 12,955. So a total of 31,676 in artistic expenses. And facility operating, little repair and maintenance for $29, property insurance, $1,360, and the other part of the rent for $2,641. So a total of $4,030. And our marketing and communication, we don't spend a lot in marketing communication, but we did have a marketing contract of $205, some printing for $605, and some program promotion for $125. So a total of $935. And there we have it. So all in all, a very successful year. And we have ended the year with a small surplus, and then we have an accumulated surplus as well to carry us through.
Great.
Is there any questions?
Can I just ask one question about deferred revenue?
Mm-hmm.
So is there a time frame involved in that, or like do we have to spend that money within a time frame?
That particular one is related to a grant. So that one is for the REACT grant, and it does have a deadline, like a final due date. We have extended it, I think. did we extend it a little bit? So, but there is a time when that has to be spent.
Mhm.
And we have to do a final report to Canada Council for that.
Right.
And Manitoba Arts Council.
Oh, and Manitoba Arts Council, that's right, yeah. No other questions?
Well, then I guess, does anybody want to make an emotion to, do we, oh wait, no, we don't have to approve the financials, do we?
We do. We need
Yeah.
a motion to approve the
I'll
financial
I'll
statement.
move that we approve the financial report as submitted.
Okay. Do we have a seconder? Oh, Diane?
Oh, Diane, okay.
I will second.
All in favor? Everyone? Yay.
And we also need a motion to approve Craig and Ross as our accountants for the year ending 2020.
2021.
21.
Oh, too funny.
To do that?
Second, okay.
I'll go second it.
Yeah.
All in favor? Everyone? Yay.
Thank you.
So we have done, oh, now we're going to vote in the board members that we have acquired over the year and the new chairperson. Yay! Diane Driedger. Okay, so I've introduced all of the new board members that we have and Diane. So do we have a motion to accept all our new board members? Is that okay? That wording? Do I have?
You can ratify.
Okay, I'd like to ratify the votes that we've made over the year for all of our new board members and for our new director, our new chairperson, Diane Driedger. Do I have a motion for that?
Yeah, I'll second your motion if you're making a motion.
Okay, I think I'm making it. I never was a very good chairperson, was I?
You're such a liar. You were amazing.
Okay, Ted's seconding it, and everyone in agreement.
Yep.
Yay! And what's the next thing on? Now we are going to create a new position on our board called outgoing chair,
Susan,
and that's for me.
Yes, Diane?
sorry to interrupt, Susan. I would like to, I don't know if this is in order, but I'd like to make a motion thanking Susan Lamberd for her 10 years of excellent and dedicated work as chair of our organization.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's we've been very fortunate, and I think that we should appreciate that.
Yes, thank you, Susan, for all your work.
Yeah.
And love and care.
Mhm.
Well, and thank you too for being almost a personal mentor to me. I really watched how you write things and present yourself, and I learned so much from you.
Yeah, likewise.
Okay. And away we go. So do we have a motion to create a new board position, outgoing chair?
I would make a motion that we create that position, because I think it's very important for continuity, and I think that it would also give us a chance to have Susan carrying on as a member of the board and having, you know, a great history to offer the new chair.
Mm-hmm. I think for information's sake, it will help too. Yeah, okay. All in favor?
I agree. Oh, can I just ask about the wording, outgoing chair? I am familiar with past chair.
Yeah.
Me too.
Other nonprofit sectors, so I'm wondering if we should call you past chair in that
Sure.
position.
Yeah, I think I'm more familiar with that term as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
I am too. We have it, Pat did it in ours.
Okay, that sounds great to me. I'm easygoing. Past chair sounds
It's
good.
Pat too. There's past chair that's coming up that they agree from Michelle.
Oh,
Okay.
great.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll change the wording of the motion. I think, was that you, Ted, who did the motion?
No, I think it's Susan made I don't know who made the motion.
Susan,
Anyway.
Susan made the motion to create a new board position called the past chair. Okay, and
Yeah.
seconded, who was the second?
I think I seconded it.
Oh, Ted seconded,
Doesn't matter.
okay. And then all in favor?
Okay. Wonderful. So now I'm going to make a motion. I am going to make a motion to adjourn. Yay.
But wait, and then you guys are still going to do a little presentation, is that right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'm with you now.
Okay.
So it is right now 6:57, and I'm going to make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
I'm seconding it because I want to get in the minutes.
Thank you, Susan. My love.
Give
Thank
30
you.
seconds.
So you could just put that as a motion by Susan and seconded by other.
Susan. That's the last AGM I'm ever going to do.
Thank you so much, Susan. Okay, so I think what we're gonna do, everyone, is we're gonna take a quick 10-minute break. Maybe 13. Come back at 10 after 7, and we'll do our artist talk featuring our outgoing chair, Susan Lamberd, and our incoming chair, Diane Driedger. So excited for this.
You know what I'm really missing at this AGM? The damn food.
I know.
So I'm going to go and have a
I
carrot
brought
or
my own
something.
snack.
Yeah,
Oh,
well,
there you go,
clever.
Diane got it.
You ready, Diane?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're just going to have a nice little conversation about creating as empowerment. I'll just introduce Diane here. Is Susan here? No, Susan's not here yet. Okay. I was going to mention, I forgot to mention that my chairperson's speech that I was on the steering committee in 2008 of our grassroots organization, but of course Susan was the one that started the organization. I don't know if everybody on the board knows that, but Susan Gibson was the one, and Marie Bouchard and Susan Gibson had started the organization. So I was going to tell Susan Gibson that I wanted to tell everyone on the board that, but I forgot. Anyway, so we'll start this. We'll start this now. When we're speaking of artists with disabilities, I've heard people refer to their artistic achievements as a gift that helps them transcend their disability. But this can definitely be patronizing and humiliating. It devalues the legitimacy of the artistic practice and any political or cultural messages that they may want to express. By making the artistic creation about the disability, it negates the individual's contribution to the artwork, and it denigrates it to therapeutic or rehabilitative creation. It also confines an artist to restrictive labels that denote tragedy, illness, or curiosity. By extension, artistic excellence is secondary to the therapeutic benefits of art making, and it becomes a catch-22 scenario. Disability is not something that we have to overcome. In fact, it can be considered the genesis in the creation of disability itself, disability art. It's the unique and individual perspectives and barriers that we struggle with that allow us to produce work which shows the world in a true light. So many people may say they draw their inspiration from their disability. Artists with disabilities want to erase that notion that they inherit, produce substandard work because of their bodies and minds. Their bodies help them produce work more sought after because of the rare and unconventional craft they use, the divergent ways in which they can interpret their world, and the distinctive way to showcase their works. So their work is more sought after. By exhibiting their work, artists with disabilities are also informing others about disability and encouraging discourse with able-bodied people, the mainstream arts community, and funding bodies. As our community grows and our membership exhibitions continue to mature, our identity and impact in the community increases, and we become more prominent. This allows us to not only convey an image of expertise, but also the capacity for a designated part in the arts community. Today, artists with disabilities are taking back control of their own representation. They're rejecting the narrow, constrained view popular culture has of an artist with disability and expressing themselves without restrictions or barriers. I am so honored to introduce our incoming chairperson, Diane Driedger, an artist with a disability. She will talk about the act of creating as empowerment and art practice. Over to you, Diane.
Okay. Yes, I'm really happy to talk about this a bit today. I spent a lot of time in my life looking at the issue of empowerment, and I have done it in different ways. As a child, I always did crafts. I was always making dolls or, writing little stories. Naturally, those are things that I did. And in fact, I learned how to knit from 2 girls in the special education class when I was 10 years old. So I have been sharing with people with disabilities since a very young age and seeing us as artists. These 2 girls taught me how to knit. I have been both a writer and a visual artist, but the first part of my life was spent very much in kind of advocacy action. That is, when I was 12 years old, I went to school in Berkeley, California. You know, this was the hotbed of the 1960s movements for women's rights, for Black civil rights. And I went to school in Berkeley, and that's when I first found out that creative writing was a thing, because I took a class with a teacher there, and I really got interested in it. And I'm just going to read you a poem that I wrote recently about this experience. In Berkeley, I walked to Martin Luther King Junior High, sidewalks a minefield, dog turds, blurry quotation marks on rain-soaked pavement. I hopscotched to school. In creative writing class, our teacher, Ms., she insists, not Mrs., seems a stone, but is a seed floating, sprouting imagination. I write the morning in my journal, enjoy the schoolyard view through rain-spattered panes, words bursting on the page. So I began to see myself as a writer. And, I did work, and I also started getting involved in theater in high school. When I was 20 years old, I learned that I hadn't missed all the social movements. And I was so interested in how people empower themselves and free themselves from oppression in terms of looking at the women's movement and the Black civil rights movement. When I was in California, I saw a lot of that. I discovered that, hey, people with disabilities have a movement. And I started working with the Manitoba League of Persons with Disabilities as a student. And at this point, I was not a person with a disability. And I started working in the movement and realized that the voice of people with disabilities is very important. No one's been listening. We are seen as invisible. People don't think about people with disabilities. And the movement, I helped create organizations with disabled people, such as Disabled Peoples International here in Winnipeg. This is the founding city of where it got together in 1980. And also through the Council of Canadians with Disabilities. And I was also the founding chair of the Independent Living Resource Center in Manitoba, who we have been doing some work with lately. So I saw that disabled people are creative. We are all creative. Disabled people tended to create a lot of organizations for political advocacy in the day. Not many people with disabilities were doing art. Artists with disabilities didn't have a role in the disability rights movement up until, I would say, the late 1990s in Canada. And then certain organizations such as Kickstart in BC started, and they were artists with disabilities who had a festival every year. And then other groups such as Tangled Arts in Toronto were founded. And of course, AANM has been founded too. And I found, as an artist myself, I acquired disability in 1991. So I had been part of the movement. I realized that art had not been involved in my work at all. I had kind of cut that off for over 10 years. And I went back to writing, and I realized that my voice is important, that disabled people's voices are important. And I started documenting the history of the disability rights movement through my academic work. And I wanted to make sure that the work that we had done is in the historical record. Then I realized, hey, where's my voice? And I need to write more. And then suddenly at the age of 40, I learned how to watercolor paint from local artist with a disability, Angelique Ducaran. She has now since passed. And I realized, hey, I can paint. So I started painting. And I then realized that, hey, there are a lot of artists with disabilities through history that I didn't know about. For instance, did folks know that Claude Monet had a visual impairment and that he painted his world famous water lilies while he had cataracts? And in fact, he put off his surgeries to have cataracts taken off because he felt it would affect his vision. And so the vision we see of the watercolors as beautiful is the vision of a visually impaired person. Vincent van Gogh, we all know he had mental health disability. And of course, we just had a huge exhibit of Vincent van Gogh's work here in Winnipeg at the Convention Center, like electronic kind of surround kind of art thing that I went to. And I thought, nowhere is it mentioned that Vincent has a disability here or had a disability. Another inspiration for me has always been Frida Kahlo, the Mexican artist with disability who died in the late 1940s. And she inspires me because she has found ways to do art in spite of disability and did it about disability. She used to paint lying down because she had accidents, and so she had fatigue and pain, and she figured out how to work in bed. Now, this was a great inspiration to me to figure out how to do that too, because of my disability involving pain and fatigue. And so I took inspiration from Frida, not only in terms of doing visual art, but in terms of writing, in terms of even working in the workplace, that she has been a real role model to me and others with invisible disabilities in the last 10 years. I don't know if you knew that Renoir was also an artist with disability. And one of his works came to the Winnipeg Art Gallery a couple years ago. Now let's read the poem that I wrote while I was at the WAG. Renoir. Here's another sad story, states the art guide. Renoir had arthritis, she explains. Had to paint with the brush in his closed fist, put there by an assistant for his final years. See how broad his strokes are, the guide explains, in this painting of two broad women. Yes, life lived in broad strokes. So I'm always into people empowering themselves and speaking out. And as incoming chair, that is something that you'll hear from me a lot. That, you know, training and salons and all the things that we're doing, I totally believe in, because I know these things work. And I know that I have gained empowerment and self-esteem through writing and through visual art as a woman with disability. And so I was thinking that maybe folks would like to share their experiences of being an artist with disability, and has that been empowering, right? When we create, we make something that wasn't there before. And I find that's really quite magical. So I'll throw that open to everybody.
Well,
Thanks.
I'll go ahead and oh, sorry, my thing just started echoing. Yeah, I could share my experience, because as you mentioned about with education and academic stuff, I wrote my dissertation for my master's about how art was empowering for me as an individual with mental illness. And one of the things that I found the most empowering was the first time I ever had my art put in a respected art gallery, which was the Winnipeg Art Gallery, was through AANM back in 2012, when we had the first Art and Body Fair in Manitoba. And that was the first time too that I really kind of came out of the closet as having a disability, as someone with, you know, an invisible disability. Most people wouldn't know that I've been, you know, hospitalized in the psych ward and medicated, and you know, everything that goes along with having a mental illness. Most people think oh, you're so put together, you know. No one believes, you know. So it was a really big step for me to come out and say, hey, I have a disability and I'm okay with that, I'm proud of it. And it was just a really empowering moment for me that was only possible through AANM. And it really changed the course of my life. And I, you know, really because of that, that's why I'm here now, why I got the education I did, why I'm so passionate about art and disability. Yeah, and I just think creating as empowerment it's so true. So that's my experiences.
Great. Yeah. Anybody else?
That's as long as I can wait without jumping in, sorry. I really tried to sit in and create a space for some of the younger folks that are both youthful in terms of age and perhaps at a beginning level in terms of their confidence and in a creative life. But I have to say that my heart is just swelling to every time I get involved with this organization and I meet the people that are involved, the people that have been there for a long time, and the people that are coming in, and my heart swells with the collective pride that has been part of my experience of the disability community. And so the fact that this organization has, and I know I'm supposed to be talking about my art practice and as an artist, and I am, because part of my practice is community. The reason we got together was, is anybody else feeling this experience that I am? Well, lo and behold, several people were, you know. And when I see what it's grown to, and the people who are on the board now and throughout that have touched base and helped to create what this organization has become, I'm excited as an artist because I believe, first of all, that there's a community of people with disabilities that has a particular voice and slant. And I include that deaf in that for a couple of reasons, capital D deaf. I put that in for a couple of reasons because it's the same collective recognition that we're stronger together when we share what we know and we support each other, when we get things done. And many people who are deaf also have other kinds of disabilities as well. And I think that's an important piece. So as an artist, I'm going to, first off, I'm going to rattle here for a bit. I'm going to share what I'm working on right now. Can you see this, little baby?
Whoa, yeah.
Thank you very much, yeah. And that is one of my friends I've been busy making over being isolated. And I never show that to people, except that this is a group that recognizes it's raw, it's odd, it's absolutely, as you're saying, original. And if I show it to someone, one of my friends, and they say, oh, that reminds me of so-and-so or such and such, I immediately change it because I don't want it to be like so-and-so or such and such. I want it to be like mine. So my friends are people that I invite in here to help with the pieces. So I'm hearing it was the language since everyone began, or we artists with disabilities in terms of our voice. The community artist in me is feeling really satisfied with what I contributed to the history, to the voice, to the action. And I'm still working on very strange things because I believe we have a particular culture and an imagery that speaks the results of a different lens. And we're making sure that that people know there's a lens there and how to put it on. So sorry for the you know, I wanted to leave a little space for folks that were just starting out, and I hope if you have something to add, you speak enthusiastically as well.
Great. Yes, I too believe that, particularly in the age of COVID-19 now, we as artists with disabilities have a lot to say about living with isolation, about dealing with chronic illness, about, having barriers to going outside. Everyone has felt that barrier, right? The barriers that we felt, attitude barriers. Oh, should I go
That's a
out?
pretty common theme for people with disabilities, for sure. Yeah.
Yes, and what I hear is that a lot of people without disabilities are having issues with their mental health. They have never been in an experience like this, as we have who have lived with disability, where we know we have to be flexible. Things are constantly changing, and we know that we have to make flow with those changes and, you know, live. We need to live even while there's COVID. So when I see that people who are saying, well, we can't do anything now, my view is we have to live every day. I mean, as a person with disabilities and chronic illnesses, I don't know, I don't want to waste a whole 2 years waiting on COVID. No, I am continuing to live, right? Because that's what I've done for the last 30 years as a person with disability. If I get sick or whatever, well, I have to continue to live. You know, this is life. Anybody else like to share or comment or questions?
Well, on the other hand, given the amount of time that we've had to stay indoors, we've had plenty of time to hone our craft.
Yes, and that's of course a positive thing, and we as people with disabilities know that. Yes, take advantage of the time.
Yes, that's very true.
Yeah, provided we're not distracted by Facebook and YouTube.
Yes.
I have a question that I think this would be something to put to you, Diane, or to maybe put more broadly to the group. This sort of speaks to what Susan was saying earlier as well about artistic excellence and how it, you know, it should be secondary to therapy, sort of as part of these ideas going forward. I wonder what supports do artists with disabilities need to allow them to practice art at the same level as their peers without disabilities. Sort of looking at the specifics of what supports should be in place.
Yes, yes. Now, I think Susan Lamberd, you know, brought up some of these issues in her short talk before mine. That, of course, a big problem is attitudes. If other artists don't think we're really artists, this is a huge problem, and perhaps the hugest problem is the attitude towards disabled people and whether we have something to contribute. And second of all, I also think that issues around access to supplies, access to education and training as an artist, these are issues for people with disabilities, because the majority of people with disabilities are people who are living below the poverty line in Canada. And so, you know, these are areas that AANM has been working in, and we can continue to work in because, you know, we have barriers. Poverty is a barrier. Lack of access to mainstream galleries, as Susan mentioned, is a barrier. Maybe even our own self-esteem about thinking that we could do art, right? Or that we can write. You know, through the years, I've worked a lot giving workshops on writing as a tool of empowerment for women with disabilities, in particular in Canada and in the Caribbean. I did a lot of work in Trinidad with the Disabled Women's Network there, where we actually were talking about self-esteem, but through that, everyone found out that they were an artist. We founded a theater group called the Dawn Players, Disabled Women's Network Players. People found out they could act. We put together a book and launched it with politicians, you know. The Minister of Education was there. We got media coverage. All of this, you know, empowered people, and we knew we could do it. And in fact, one of the women in the Disabled Women's group in Trinidad said to me, you know, in my rural area, I was always known as that lady with the cane. Now I am known as the author in my community. So, you know, we can see how we can change, we define the situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're a contract violation.
Sorry?
That they had to be tracked and they had to behave.
Can I say something?
Wear a mask, stay out of big public
Okay. Here, Janelle's voices.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, Alice. Sorry.
When I joined, well, I met Susan first.
Can you be more specific?
The organization. Well, I mean, talking about Susan Lamberd, sorry. And then I joined the group, the organization, and I felt more comfortable. I felt I belonged. I didn't have that feeling before. I just felt a kinship with everyone. And that was very important. And the encouragement I got, and being part of the Martha Street Studios, making our March program was absolutely life-changing for me. It helped me figure out what my art was about. Before, well, I was always working with topography and doing stuff with it and making images, but I didn't connect the fact of why I was doing that. And my Street Studios program helped me figure that out. I was doing that because that's how I process communication. You know, you see the image, and then you realize the image is full of letters, and then you realize, oh, it's spelling something. It spells a word or two. And that's kind of how I hear. And I didn't have it put together until I took that program. Then I realized, oh yeah, that's what I've been doing all along. That fits. So I really am appreciative of being part of this organization. It's been really good for me.
Yeah, yeah, and you know that is something that I understood from the disability rights movement too. You know, the socio-political movement that the Council of Canadians with Disabilities, for instance, who got disability and disabled people protected under the Charter of Rights freedoms, right? That the things that then bring to the world, you know, we are informing the world about our experience, and it's becoming more and more relevant as I see it. The recent Canadian census on disability from 2017 has told us that 22% of the Canadian population self-identify as having a disability or a chronic illness. So we are 1 in 5, and as our population ages, we will be 1 in 4, right? Pretty soon, by 2030. So yeah, that solidarity is really important for us to create art and support each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the mentorship programs have been so successful. We've had one of our mentees gone on to university because of the mentorship program, which is huge. She was interested in art before the mentorship program, went to the mentorship program, and after doing it, she was so enthused with it. She went into university, the fine arts program. We've had lots of other ones that have continued on with their career because of it, and with other mentorship programs, and become mentors themselves. So it's definitely a really great program, and we're hoping to continue on with it to make the mentees the mentors with that program. So hopefully it will continue. It's a great program, and it's obviously centered around the idea of what MAWA is based on, and they've been successful for 40 years now, I think, or 30 something years. So you just, if something's working, then don't change it, right? So,
Right, exactly. Actually, Michelle just wrote us in the chat, you know, that mentorships are a lifeline, and she's thankful for them.
yes.
Then there's a question from Donna. What is MAWA? Susan, what is MAWA?
MAWA is Mentoring Artists for Women's Art. It's one of the longest Manitoba artist-run centers in Winnipeg, if not the longest running Manitoba artist-run centers in Winnipeg. It may be, perhaps. Very, very well-known nonprofit organization.
Hey, Susan, just to jump in, we have one of the co-directors here.
I was just going to say.
Yeah.
I was thinking, I bet you're having a hard time not jumping in there, eh?
Yeah.
In practice.
Oh, our treasurer, who's on our board, our treasurer, is Dana Klecki, and she is the co-director of MAWA, and I'm going to let her jump in and tell you a little bit about it. Dana?
Well, you're doing great, Susan. I like hearing you talk about MAWA. Mentoring Artists for Women's Art started in 1984. So I don't think we're the longest not-for-profit organization. I think there might be a few that are older, but we're certainly the oldest mentorship program and one of the only mentorship programs, or at least up until recently. So MAWA, our core program, it's called the Foundation Mentorship Program, which pairs emerging artists with senior artists. And they work together in a period of over a year. And it's transformative. It's about sharing ideas. It's about the give and take between artists, and to help the mentees, as we call them, the participants, reach their goals. And everybody has different goals. So some is to have an active art practice, and some is to go to grad school. I mean, everybody has, or to build a community. So it depends on what the mentees' goals are. And we pair a mentor with 2 mentees, and there's 5 at a time, 5 mentors and 10 mentees, and they also meet as a group. So there's this building of community as a group, mm-hmm. and group discussions and exchanging ideas, and then they meet one-on-one with their mentors. So there's both the one-on-one and also with this group that has become really an important aspect of that mentorship program. And we are asked all the time about our mentorship program, because it is such an important peer-based learning environment that mm-hmm. that other centers around Canada and across the country, like around the world, have asked how we do it and how can they do it. And we're all often asked, can we set up a MAWA in another place, satellite MAWA. So, there's something really special about the mentorship. And as you can see with AANM, the mentorship really, there is community, but there's also the sharing and between generations, intergenerational sharing as well.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Can I just say something about it too? I was going to say that one aspect of what MAWA has taken on, I think, as one of its major roles, is to develop ideas of professionalism within the arts. And so it really, it's the idea of the mentors and mentees sharing information as to how you successfully create a career for yourself as an artist. And I think, so that's, I think, a very important role that over the years they've developed into all kinds of ways that people can share information about what it is in terms of how you act as a professional, and how you can learn to become a professional in that as a role in being an artist. So I think that's really important, that important factor that MAWA has taken on.
And with artists with disabilities, with the barriers to education, especially with poverty, with physical barriers to education, attitudinal barriers, having the mentorship of experienced artists and artists from the mainstream community, and being able to pair these artists with artists that don't have the experience and aren't able to get the experience is something that is absolutely just can't be, it can't be found anywhere else. MAWA has done it with women artists, and doing it with disabled artists is absolutely fantastic. People, the members that we've had that have tried it, we haven't been able to have mentors that were artists with disabilities up until recently, because obviously there just haven't been that many artists with disabilities that have been able to mentor. But recently, just this last mentorship that we've been doing, all of our mentors are artists with disabilities, and so that's really exciting. They're all very experienced, all very matured, and very well-known artists in the arts community. So, it's a very exciting time for us, because we're kind of recycling our mentees into our mentors, and becoming a fully mature organization at this point. It's really, really exciting.
Can I just jump in and say I was one of the first mentees at MAWA for either the first or second year that it existed. Worked with Diane Thornycroft, and it was fabulous. And I also got a chance to work with our organization, the MOM program, Making Our Mark at Martha Street Studio. And I think that the integration and the full circle aspect of having started at MAWA and having MAWA people on the board, and that whole, to add to what Ted is saying, having just artist visits, like Ted helping me to become more professional so that I can pass that knowledge on to other people. Just wanted to say it's working. Gotta like it.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Comments, questions, stories?
We got about 5 minutes left before we have to wrap up.
Yep.
So
did you
now's
get
the time.
questions? I was just wondering, the question that was asked about, what does an artist with a disability need, really started some good conversation. Do you feel that you got some of the answers that might be helpful, or is there something more you were hoping for?
You're speaking to my question?
Yes.
No, it does. That really does give a sense of what's been achieved and what's still in need.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks for checking in.
Well, I guess to answer something that's still in need, one of the things that we've created is the ASL fund for art events. And so that's something that we want to start seeing put into grants. When you're putting on an exhibition, you want to see those accessibility fees put into it, so that people are thinking ahead of time, every time they put on events, well, what are the accessibility needs that we need to add? It's great that AANM can provide the ASL for different art events, And that's something we've been doing for, a couple years. And I think we're going to start looking at shifting to doing more education so that the big art organizations just start automatically thinking, okay, we're putting on a show. Okay, what do we need to do to make this community feel welcome, this community, and for the disability community and the deaf community, it includes closed captioning, ASL interpretations, visual descriptions, audio descriptions. We want to see
signage.
Yeah, there's just we want to see people thinking about it more and less,
and not rely on AANM to provide the ASL every time. Yeah.
It's on us to provide the modeling that it should be done.
That's right.
Yes, and in fact, I'm thinking that a lot of these groups receive grants like from the different arts councils, and government is required by federal legislation and by the charter to make things accessible for people with disabilities. So we need to hold them to it. And I would think that arts organizations can receive funding for access needs within their regular budgets, that it would be just part of doing business.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That's a really good point to kind of wrap up and end on. It's that's I guess one of our mission statements for the next little while is how can we make these granting bodies start being responsible for the access needs. I think that's a really good thing to look at.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so excited.
Yeah. And the arts councils should take that on too.
That's right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yippee!
Well, I want to thank everybody for coming out today and being here. I'd also like to thank the interpreters, Tessa and Christina, for all your help making this accessible. Susan, we are going to miss you so much. We're so glad you're on the board and you're not leaving us. No. But you have been so instrumental in just guiding this organization that the other Susan and we Bouchard put forward. And I am so excited to be working with you, Diane. We've worked in the past as student to professor, and I'm really looking forward to working with you on a more pure base. So I'm excited.
It's going to be great. I look forward to working with everybody.
Yes, thank you so much, everybody, for coming, and it was lovely to talk to everyone. And thank you very much, Susan, once again for coming. You, our founder of AANM, always here for us and always will be, I'm sure.
Man, it does my heart good. You guys are doing great. Really great. Wow. Yippee!
You started it all, so thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.